So here's the thing, Arne Slot isn't getting all that carried away with what's going on in this period of his Liverpool tenure, whatever you want to call it, right? And there's a reason, there are multiple reasons behind that, but the main reason for me is I still feel like he knows we're in the honeymoon period. I still feel like he knows that as a fan base, we are still getting our bearings, finding where we're at, finding how to react to his style of football, his style of winning, his one loss in however many games. And he also, I think to an extent knows, there have been games where Liverpool have been fortunate. The Southampton game, a game that Liverpool very much controlled, was not a game where we were fortunate, but a game where it could have gone very differently. And he even said this in his post-match press conference. On another day, when Southampton go 2-1 up, even though they're bottom of the table, they're a team who have an ability to control games. It's just that you could feel Liverpool constricting. There were previous years where Liverpool were very much a constricting force. You could feel them closing in on their target and just making it harder and harder to move the ball. It was how we forced a lot of issues in previous years under Klopp, and it's how we forced issue under Slot now as well. And here's the thing, those kind of things in games go overlooked by a lot of people. They go, oh, well, someone else made a mistake. They don't congratulate the pressing. They don't congratulate the pressure. They don't congratulate the intensity. They just sort of put it into this mystical force of, oh, yeah, those guys just press and it just sort of, they win the ball back somehow. These are all very coordinated things that Arne Slot will know has won Liverpool games. And again, I feel like the get out of Salah on the Southampton day, the get out of having all these individually brilliant performances, sure, we can put that down to a very good manager, motivating his players, putting them in the right positions to succeed, all those kind of things. Again, this isn't just off the back of the Southampton game, but it's a good time to review right before the biggest week in Liverpool's footballing calendar, at least in 2024. Obviously outside of Klopp leaving. Real Madrid, Man City. Real Madrid hit a very decent vein of form on the weekend, or at least a very decent match, 3-0. Good. Vinicius Jr. goes out. Possibly that is a benefit to them. Even though he's the guy who scored in the Champions League final or whatever it was against us, even though he's the guy who is, real quality and has been the guy for the Ballon d'Or, just because they've been entitled about those things doesn't mean that he's the only player of quality on the team. And then Man City, even though they are missing Rodri right now, are still a very potent force going forward and a hurt animal in the corner. Arne Slot knows that not only that, it's not about just those teams, it's about the coaches he's about to go up against. Carlo Ancelotti, someone who serially got the better of Liverpool in Liverpool's peak years, is now a manager who we could potentially try to undermine in his tenure. Pep Guardiola, a manager who we serially had back and forth with, but generally got the better of us in the war, not necessarily the battles. We've now got the opportunity to get the better of him and put some daylight between us and them, not only in the Champions League and give ourselves a much better chance in the Champions League, but also in the Premier League as well. You can see that Liverpool are beginning to get a lot more comfortable in this Arne Slot system, but you can also see why he's not getting carried away. There was an element of, it felt sloppy this weekend from Liverpool. For the first time, I really felt like it felt sloppy rather than nervous or overlooking or slightly lackadaisical, whatever it is. There felt a little bit of a sloppy element. Konate and Van Dijk in particular sort of felt like they set that tone on the weekend. Van Dijk was very bolshy in running forward, and I felt it was a little bit unusual sometimes when he was moving forward. I was a bit like, what is it that we're doing? What are we trying to achieve when you do this? We left massive gaps in behind us. We knew that there was control in the midfield, and when you look at I genuinely feel like the central players, especially for Southampton, really drove at us. Like, it made a difference when those players just drove and they drove into space and suddenly Van Dijk's driving back and I was just a bit like, this must be a Slot tactic, but I'm trying to work out what it is. Now, he'll have been given license to do that, but again, Slot's not getting carried away because he knows that there are still things that can trip us up this season. First of all, I like his little caveat. He was speaking about much further on in the season, City had this chasm to make up to Arsenal just, a couple of seasons ago, and they made it up. And he's right. Liverpool should always be looking over their shoulder. It doesn't mean that you don't perform to your best or any of those things, but you should always be thinking, well, there is someone who's going to try and take that position. There is someone in this league who thinks they're better than us, who knows they're as good as we are. Without Rodri, it's very different, obviously, but there's still very good. There's still a lot of quality in that team, even though that midfield feels a little weird and a little bit different. And then he knows the main stumbling block this season, even though actually Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent have all been quite open about their contract renegotiations and how they feel about wanting, the reward or the leaving Liverpool to go, he knows come January, there is a tornado waiting for Liverpool if they do not re-sign. If one of these players doesn't re-sign and there is no transfer on the other side of that, if there is no light at the end of the tunnel, people get angry. And that undermines campaigns. It becomes a goodbye tour. It becomes, wow, this is the last time we'll ever see him facing this team. Wow, this is the last time we'll ever do this. Wow, we can really get at him today because he knows there is a certain amount of time left. You remember what happened towards the end of the Klopp tenure, the pressure that happened around those players and was put on those players and was put on Klopp and Salah. You saw the dynamics between those players in that time. It didn't work well because the high emotions and the heightened emotions in those periods just undermined the whole campaign for Liverpool. I don't think anyone was saying, oh, it's Klopp who wants all the focus on him. It was that the players wanted to perform when the players were not performing to the best of their ability at that point. The same could happen if Arne, has to deal with these things. I think at one point he's going to have to deal with transitioning away from this previous tenure. And I think at some point we're going to have to look at the reality of it. The scale has swung quite wildly between players sort of going, oh, well, this is what Klopp liked, and now it's not so much that intense and it feels a bit nicer to be on an even keel. The cult of Klopp, to an extent, is being left by those players. But at the same time, we have to set up a new system and a new idea, and we have to move on from some of those old ideas and ways that come with some of these players in Virgil and Salah and even Mane and Firmino and those guys. We found it very difficult to move on from those ideas because everyone was always being compared to the upper echelons of players. Now, to an extent, as Liverpool fans, you would hope that, the players care about the club as much as we do. I don't know what's true and what isn't, but you would anticipate that actually Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk and Trent, they have some affection for Liverpool, but they obviously care about their own bottom line. They care about the millions of dollars, pounds, euros that they're going to earn in the next couple of years and looking after themselves and their family for generations to come. Because they might not see Liverpool as Liverpool. Of course, they want to perform for the fans, but most likely they see Liverpool, the entity, as Liverpool, the company, and FSG. The negotiations they're having are with this outside entity that just happens to own the club, and they come in and everyone's kind of going, right, how can we best serve Liverpool? Liverpool is just this thing in the middle that sort of feels like the fans, but what is it to these guys? Trent, probably the one with the best idea of what it actually means to those people on a week in, week out basis, being a boy from the city. But he's very conscious of the fact he needs to manage this. And I think he's also very conscious of the fact that if Southampton and their manager are very good at exploiting what it is that Liverpool's weakness is, Real Madrid, Man City, Newcastle, Everton are going to be good at exploiting some of those things. So getting through what is termed as a difficult period is obviously part of it, but it only sets you up for the next period. And moving on, what you've got to anticipate is what is next for Liverpool after this difficult period. A period, by the way, where we're anticipated to get way less points than we got at the moment, all these kind of things. Well, first of all, it sets you up for the likelihood of Liverpool winning the league. And everyone talking about the league being Liverpool's to lose. Now, to an extent, I actually think this is fair enough. I actually think it's fair enough to say, with the early performances of Liverpool, it's 69%. By the way, that percentage changes every week whenever you win or lose, but it's 69% likely that Liverpool will win the league at this point because of X, Y, Z, because if City continue in such a way, if Arsenal continue in such a way, then they'll get this many points, Liverpool will get this many points, Chelsea will get this many points, and Brighton will still inevitably finish fifth. It's a joke, chill. But the main point from me is, finish this difficult period and you're into, now you're title contenders. Now, every week, the question to Mo Salah is, are you going to win this title before you leave? You're going to leave Liverpool as a two-time champion? Are you going to leave Liverpool as XYZ? Because they're top of the Champions League. They're top of the Premier League right now. Top of the Premier League by 8 points. Top of the Champions League by 1 win. The real goal for Liverpool this season was finishing in the top 4 and having a decent Champions League run. But now, if City are at a low and you've got to pick up another one and it's all part of the journey and the expectation is extremely high, Arne Slot is not even this far in to his journey and he's already being seen as if he's this far in. He knows there are still many difficult bridges to cross in terms of negotiating the dynamics of the group as you move on from some of the current leaders, people who are alpha males, people who have big ideas of themselves, egos, all these kind of things, and transitioning those things on. People who see themselves as Liverpool in the modern era don't want to be moved on from Liverpool in the modern era, want to have their legacy, want to win 2 league titles, want to win 3 league titles, another Champions League, all these things. And also people who, in the back of their minds, will be thinking, this Arne Slot guy is actually pretty good. And I want to be part of that, and I want to win more. Whilst I can still get the most out of my body, because it seems like Liverpool, broadly is still improving the way they're caring for players. It was very intense under Klopp. It's very intense under Slot. But you can see, Salah, from the shape of his body, from all these kind of things, looks like he's in very good nick, and at least until the age of 35. Hence why people are saying offer him a new contract. But he realizes there will be those challenges to come. And then the flip side of that, it's not even the flip side, it's just the other side of getting through a difficult period. And the other side is good teams and Southampton, good managers, top-class managers, by the way, Premier League and Champions League managers, which is where Liverpool are competing, will have worked out ways to unpick your system, will have worked out where your weaknesses are, the soft underbelly, the space from which they can score goals, all these kind of things. Southampton had clearly worked out a very smart way to pick through Liverpool's backline, either on the counter or by pushing a player forward, pushing that backline back, and then going back, and then back, so kind of a bounce pass almost, but like a bounce, it's more like a bounce move. It felt like an almost, what do you even call that? What's the move in basketball where they get the ball, the players behind them, they step that way, and then they explode the other way. I don't know what that move is, because I'm not a basketball coach. But broadly, the point is, you go this way, that causes Liverpool's backline to go that way, then you go the other way, and you've got loads of space that way. That's essentially what Southampton did on the weekend. I mean, that's not the only way to unpick Liverpool's backline, but that's one way, right? You'd imagine that Mbappe, Jude, and everyone else was looking at that and going, well, hey, Mbappe's looking at it and going, I could have been playing for that. Jude's looking at it and going, I could have been playing for that. Tchouameni's looking at it and going, I could have been playing for that. Rodrigo's looking at it and going, I could have been playing for that. How many Real Madrid players have we been linked with? Not the point. The point is that they will have come up with tactical and individual one-on-one matchup observations that will brief every other manager in this coming period. What he'll also know is, and what a lot of Feyenoord fans have spoken to me about in recent weeks, is he came on good in the second half of the season. His second half of the season adjustments were broadly fantastic. He worked out other managers because there's more data for him to work with, and therefore could make observations and adjustments and work out what they were going to do in game. Could come up with new innovative things and had the players, which, by the way, broadly Liverpool do, technically, mentally, personality-wise, to be invested in the project. He's got that at Liverpool. But he knows that that is a two-edged sword. He knows that there is if I've got those players who are the best, a lot of other people are going to want them. Some of the players who are the best are in that final season. Can I keep them emotionally stable? When we saw Klopp leave, that was one thing, and this kind of moves into the point that I was broadly making earlier on in the season. We thought Klopp leaving was a big thing. There are a lot of players in there who Klopp had empowered, shaped, molded, turned into the players that they are, given the leadership, given the responsibility, had shaped and molded them. And now they were just continuing that legacy. Even Slot said it himself. It's like, I didn't have to do all that much because broadly in this period, they've been set up to succeed. When those players move on, when a Salah, who is a silent but deadly leader out on the field, a man who, for some weird reason, can carry an ego, but at the same time be so relatable and a man of the people, a brilliant person. Van Dijk, a person who broadly operates on a second gear basis throughout the entirety of the Premier League, every now and again shifting up to third or fourth just to get up the hill. And Trent, a guy who is still young, swaggerlicious, swaggerific, swaggerful, and smart, comes out and, performs. And shows other people, like, hey, there's a bit of Gerrard. There's a bit of the Gerrard DNA in here. Then, he knows he's losing some of that back line. He knows he's losing some of that spine. Sure, there's Gravenberch, who's performing very well, but even Gravenberch is talking about, I've got Van Dijk and Konate in the back line. You saw Konate the other day. He had a few brain lapses, or a few brain farts, if you want to call them that, and Liverpool suddenly didn't look as if they were so sure in that back line. They constantly had, he was kind of having this weird little battle with, I want to say Onuachu, but yeah, it feels like that. It was Armstrong, by the way, who I thought was particularly good at trying to exploit Liverpool. They didn't get down there enough, I thought. I just think Liverpool did a very good job of covering the right-hand side of their team and the left-hand side of Southampton the other day. But they were driving through the middle. You could see that Lallana, the technical proficiency to bring the ball down. Madrid are going to exploit that. City are going to try and exploit that. And they're going to try and, City have got more than enough tools to take Liverpool apart and vice versa. But that's why he's keeping this lid on it and why he's being so conservative about these things and why I think a lot of commentary channels are also broadly being conservative about these things or trying to be more conservative about these things. And you'll see this in my Real Madrid preview. Real Madrid are a fantastic team, but there are places we can take them apart. There are places that they can probably similarly do us. And because of their quality, I don't want to underestimate them for that very reason. Broadly, at the moment, you're seeing this repeatable slot system and he's realizing that we need to up it. Post-international break, I can give them that little break. But going into the next period, the next, I want to say 5-6 games, I think that is where Slot's going to earn his money, where we're going to see the making of this team. And it starts this Wednesday. I'll be at Anfield. Let me know whether you guys are going to be there as well. If you want to come and say hi beforehand, if you want to go for a drink, if you want to go for like a pie or something, does that sound like I was in a chicken shop the other day. In my local chicken shop, a Dixie's, if you will. It's not an innuendo. And I was there. A little repartee, a little chat with the boss man. Good guy. There's one that I like and one that I don't like so much. And the one that I didn't like so much, he was there. I didn't want to have a chat to him. But then someone else walked in with a middle-class accent. And he said the phrase, "How quickly can you make me a burger?" As if somehow there was a need for a burger, of some sort of emergency burger. And I realized I might sound like that sometimes. A little bit of me died. A little bit of me. Because I went, oh my God, what if I've ever said to a guy in a chicken shop, "How quickly can you make me a burger?" And then he patronizingly said, and this is where I think cultural dynamics come into it, "How sure are you that you can quickly make the burger?" In a kind of big middle finger to the guy, credit to them, they actually skipped me and went straight to him to make the emergency burger that this guy needed. But that was also because the boss man looked at me and I nodded and I went, "Make the burger." I didn't say it, I said it with my eyes. But the point was, sometimes I'm worried that's how I come off. I don't want to be emergency burger man. God, I'm glad I got that off my chest. Anyway, hope Slot has a good Wednesday and Sunday. I will see you guys here on this channel tomorrow for a Real Madrid preview. I'll see you here on Wednesday as well for a Real Madrid review, no matter the result. And I hope to God that you head over to my Instagram because I might have done like a little tiny brand deal on Wednesday with someone and I really like the support on it. Links in the description. I'll see you guys there. Much love. Bye.